So I told her that the mountains always come first.
The primary thing we all need is to feel safe, and you are providing that safety or not providing that safety. And that goes against a very primal feeling that we both have if that person doesn't feel safe when they're in the mountains with you.
And I say this because I didn't do that good of a job of assessing that situation and her skill level. We're going to be talking about relationships in the outdoors. What do you think about
This ought
that,
to be
Josh? Fun. Yeah.
I got a few thoughts. I've had a few of those.
Yeah. Same, right, man? Same. I don't have a very good success rate. We'll put it that way. So, yeah, my success rate is kind of down. But we're going to kind of discuss maybe things that have worked for us, maybe things that haven't worked for us in the past. And the reason I bring this up, Josh, because I was texting Josh about this yesterday. He's like, hey, man, you need to talk. And I'm like, first of all, great friend. Second of all, let's just say I was talking to a girl that I've been talking to for a while. Awesome girl. And the first thing that I said to her, though, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, Josh, but this is the way I feel.
Oh, no, that's a technical difficulty right there. We just lost our tripod. I'm sorry.
What happened?
My tripod literally just fell over.
Nice.
Oh, man.
So I told her that the mountains always come first. And the reason I feel that way is because the mountains have always been there for me. And during all of my relationships, they're always there for me. They sometimes try to kill me, but they're always there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that statement, Josh?
You know, it's funny you say that because on my drive over here, I was thinking that would probably be the main theme. And I knew that's what you had probably told somebody recently. I just had a feeling. Literally, that is the one topic that I was thinking about on the way over here.
No way.
I'm not kidding you. And I have my answer, my background to that, but I've also had a pleasure of knowing a lot of outdoor people over the years, and I've heard a lot of people say that, especially pro athletes outside. A lot of them will make it very clear, like Alex Honnold is a prime example. They make it clear that the outdoors come first, and I think that might seem selfish to people that aren't having those same experiences, or at least not having those experiences in the same way. But I don't think it's selfish at all. And the reason I don't think it's selfish is because it's not about putting the outdoors in front of the other person. It's about putting yourself in front of the other person. You have to love yourself first. And for us, we'd lose ourselves. We'd lose who we are if we weren't out in the mountains exploring and adventuring. And then you just become a shell of yourself, and you wouldn't even like the person. That other person wouldn't even like the person that you became if you weren't outside getting after it. So that's the way it is for me.
Well, and that's interesting you say that, because that's what her response to me was. I don't want you to stop doing that. That's the reason I like you, type of thing, right? And so I thought that was really interesting, because I guess in past relationships, they've also said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they really realized. You had made this comment once. They don't really realize how into it you are, in a way. You had said that about we don't have to go into it, but you had said that once as a comment to me. I remember you saying that.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, yeah, she doesn't know exactly how obsessed I am with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that could pose a problem? How do you keep my question is, how do you keep the balance? Because here's my struggle. She also loves the outdoors. I want to take her, and I love teaching people the outdoors, especially stuff that I've learned from you along the way, right? And I'll pass that down onto her, and it's super fun. Sometimes, though, I'll feel guilty if I'm not bringing her along, or I'll feel torn if I'm out there and she's not there, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? What's your advice with that, or how do you balance that?
For me, I struggled with that in one of my past relationships for years and years, because we had two different modes.
Modes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, because I mean, I know how you like to experience the mountains. You like to really push yourself and get after it. I do as well, and you have to have a certain mentality to push yourself.
Yeah.
It's got to involve a little bit of maybe a little bit of I don't want to say aggression, but testosterone for sure.
Hmm.
Um, you really gotta grind, and you gotta suffer sometimes. Um, and I think that is the complete opposite of the energy that you want to have for a relationship.
Yeah.
And so to have those two things going on simultaneously is challenging, especially if you don't want to enjoy the mountains in the same way. Like maybe your partner wants to just be present in the mountains and wants to just like enjoy the scenery and wants to just be like at
Great
peace.
points.
Um, but you want to just go after it and tag the summit, or you want to knock out X number of miles in a short period of time, or you're going for the FKT or whatever. And so I found the best way to balance that is you got to just make time for both. And I just ended up reserving those times where I was going to go have a suffer fest for going out with my buddies,
Your boys.
and then I would go do hang out in a hammock or go hang out at a lake, do that stuff
Yeah.
with her, and just have them separate, and that's fine. But that's the way I balance it. Is you can't combine them into the same trip. It's hard to do
Dude,
that.
man, you made such a great point that I want people to maybe even re-listen to. You said you can't have that same energy simultaneously of a
Mm-hmm.
sufferfest versus kind of enjoying it, right? That's hard to bring
Mm-hmm.
into the same place. That's what I would do in my past relationships is I would bring them into a sufferfest, which then that wasn't their mode that they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to operate in. That's such a good point, man. I never thought of it like that at all.
Well, yeah, you got to have like a nurturing mentality in a relationship, and that is not what we're using. You can't tap into that when we're trying to bag a peak,
Right.
or stay up all
Ex-
night hiking through the night.
100%.
It's just
Yes.
so. I mean, it's not to say that your partner can't do those things, but they got to go in there with that mentality. So expectations have a lot to do with it. And I know that my some of my past partners just haven't wanted to ever have that mentality. Didn't want to
Kind of the
have a
suffer.
suffer
Yeah, yeah.
fest. Yeah, so got to at least have the right mode.
I can feel free to recount any stories about that if you want. I can recount one. One comes to mind with me. I had taken an ex up to Mailbox Peak, and that's a pretty. There's a lot of vert there, but this was during the winter. This was in December,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like kind of my birthday weekend or whatever. We got a cabin, and we're going up to that final stretch, and it's just blowing, and it's snow, and it's cold, all of that. I mean, pretty full on for Mailbox Peak. And I got up to the summit before her, and she's kind of a little bit lagging behind, a little bit kind of struggling behind. And she's like, I'm scared. And I'm like, scared? This is Mailbox. I was like, what are you scared of? Like, you're totally fine. What are you going to fall? Like, I actually kind of got a little annoyed with it. And then she, like, kind of didn't want to go. And I had to coax her up into getting to the summit, through this kind of weather and stuff. And weeks after this whole thing, we actually had a conversation about that. And she's like, basically, I didn't feel safe. You didn't help that type of thing. But that goes back to the nurturing thing. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to tag the summit. I wanted to get down off of the summit. That was in my mind like, okay, the safest thing to do, up and down as fast as possible. Whereas she was kind of like hesitant with it. And yeah, so that's just a story that sticks into my mind of like, I didn't do that balance.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say the nurture part, it can be tough for me if I have an
Mm-hmm.
objective in mind. So maybe my lesson here is don't do it an objective that I'm do something just like you're saying, a little more relaxing, not objective minded if you're bringing somebody along like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably comes down to communication and communicating that the expectation of what that trip is going to be. That's definitely sounds like a familiar scenario. Um, and I wonder what her experience is. Was she less experienced than you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
she was for
So
sure.
she's probably never had an experience where it's like, blizzard
S-
like conditions, and so that's all new to her,
Right,
and where it's totally normal to you. So I mean, that sounds a lot like sort of like a guided scenario when I'm guiding clients. Their
right.
experiences, experiencing something for the first time, where I'm experiencing it for the 100th time. So it isn't
Yeah,
going to feel scary to me because it's familiar. And then yeah, so you just got to recognize that it might be a different experience, and got to have a nurturing mentality towards it. Um, just yeah, it's hard to balance because I know you want to get to the top, you want to get to the summit, you got an objective, you know.
yeah. Do you bring in any of your guiding experience? Like, do you feel like your guiding experience has helped you navigate that with relationships, like personal relationships?
Yeah, it's helped me to kind of slow down
Hmm.
and be especially being present. Because in guiding, I'll do the same thing over and over again. Like I've done Baker over 20 times, and it
Right.
starts to get a little boring. There isn't so much motivation to get to the top.
Sure.
So I just try to be present with my clients and be present with what I'm teaching them, and you know feel the coffee cup in my hand in the morning.
Hmm.
Extra focused. Just focus on the little things and just be there in the mountains. And it's less. It's no longer about getting to the top like anymore at all. Not when I'm guiding. It's about the
Yeah, yeah.
experience of being in the mountains,
Ah, interesting. Okay.
which is if I look back at some of my past partners in the mountains, that's really what they were looking for more to do more of, is being more present in the mountains.
Interesting. When you let's say that you are away from your partner, you're going to do some type of more, we'll say dangerous type of, for example, we did the Grand Teton last year
Mm-hmm.
together. And that was, I mean, dude, that was pretty, that's kind of dangerous, man. Especially for you as the leader, dude. And then our mics went down and it was cold. It was a full-on experience. How is it that you like reassure your partner about your safety when you're maybe like on something that's kind of full on? I mean, obviously a lot of times they don't understand maybe the magnitude of it until
Mm-hmm.
after the fact. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you navigate that whole thing?
How do I communicate there that they're safe?
That you're no that they're not with you. You're alone.
Mm-hmm.
You're by yourself or you're with your
Oh,
buddies. That type of thing. So where, you're doing something dangerous, maybe they don't know the full extent of what it is. How do you navigate that?
oh, I just say, trust me, I'm a mountain guide. It'll be all fine. It'll be okay.
I love that.
Um, just reassurance. Just explaining to them what I'm doing, where I'm going, when I'm going to be back, um, and checking in. I could bring in reach
Yeah.
and check in when
Big.
I'm at the top.
Yeah.
Um, but I think what comes to mind is actually like my parents, because they used to be really worried about me every time I'd go into the mountains when I was younger. Um, and just over time, though, over the years, they just trusted that I was going to come back because I've been coming back for so many years over and over and
Sure.
over again. And they just eventually trusted that I was going to make good decisions in the mountains and I was going to come
Right.
back safely. So,
Yeah.
um, but I think that was built over time by coming back, by checking in, by making
Hmm.
a plan, by by doing all of those things over time. And I think it's no different in a relationship.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Do you have any questions for me on this topic? I've been hammering you.
Well, what else has been on your mind? It sounds like this is becoming a reoccurring theme, and so you wanted to hash it out.
Well, I
I also
think
think it's
that,
funny that we're hashing it out on a podcast. I love
yeah, in
that.
front of
This is
everybody.
very authentic. Yeah.
Totally, man. Well, I think here's my thoughts. I think that, or what I have experienced in my life is that women have really like ambition. They're really attracted to that. You're not sitting inside. Very common thing that always people bring up is playing video games. You're not that guy. You're not going out on Saturdays partying. Like, you have a very interesting almost life that they kind of want to fall into in a way.
Mm-hmm.
My problem has been that when we date for a longer duration, that shine kind of wears off in the way that I don't do a very good job paying attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, they didn't realize like how even when I tell them the mountains come first, I don't know if they actually necessarily believe that, or if they think that they can
Mm-hmm.
maybe change my mind, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, with this girl right now, super cool. She's into the outdoors, super fun to be around. Is different than my past relationships where she has a growth mindset and wants to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
Took her rock climbing, she loved it, had a great time. Really impressed me. Rappel, doing everything. I was very impressed. But I just don't know how long that will last.
Right. Well, you've also dated athletes too, mountain athletes. Like, I don't know if they've been pro athletes, but pretty high level mountain athletes, right?
Well, not really. I've seen one. I've not dated, but whatever's below that.
Uh huh. Yeah,
And
gone on dates with. Okay.
yeah, sure. Somewhere around that. But honestly, most of the women that I've dated have been interested in the outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
recreationally interested in the outdoors. We'll say it that way.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
But
Okay.
that's kind of the extent of it. And I mean, like you said, I think it was just so good what you said, like the different modes that people have. They were really in the
Uh
enjoyment
huh.
mode, and I'm very much in the suffering mode. And
Right.
so I feel guilty either way. If I go and I suffer by myself, I kind of feel bad that I'm not bringing them along. But
Uh
then
huh.
again, if I'm relaxing, I feel bad that I'm not suffering. So how to navigate that? I think honestly, one of the best things though is climbing. Teaching people how to climb, because now you have a
Mm-hmm.
partner. That's pretty cool. That can kind of go whenever. You guys develop trust together,
Yep.
which is really big. You doing a very exciting activity together
Right.
that's always changing. So climbing is like a big one. And but
It's
like
not so much suffering either.
it's you're right. You're right. You're right.
It's more of a relaxed environment.
Which is so funny to say, dude, because when you're the one climbing on lead, I'm not relaxed. I'm not very relaxed.
Yeah, but I mean, like a 5 minute approach. You go to your climb, you come back down, you throw your flip flops on,
Yeah.
and then pull out a sandwich, and
You're not
then
very sore. Yeah,
yeah, you're not just like hiking all day long. You're not wearing a heavy backpack. It's just more of a relaxed environment.
you're right.
Um, but anyway, I mean, like if I'm back to like kind of what we were talking about though, is like you did just got to know that what sort of mode that we're talking about because um, it's not. This isn't a hobby
Yeah.
for you. It's a lifestyle. Like for me, the outdoors is the primary thing.
God, dude, you are
It's
crushing this right now. These are some quotes, bro. It's not a
well, I
hobby,
I
it's a
get it.
lifestyle.
Hmm. It is. It defines our lives. Is time out in the outdoors, and if we could figure out ways to only be in the outdoors, playing and not doing anything else, we would be doing that. And, occasionally we'd get tired and want to go watch Netflix, but for the most part, we want to be outside, and that is, if you're in it, you're in it. If you know, you know. And I know a lot of different mountain athletes, and a lot of them are also a lot of them are women as well, and so they get it when they're. It's not just like a guy's thing; like women get it too.
Right.
But also, as far as like relationships goes, safety is like the primary thing I think for everybody. And I won't paint too broad of a brush because I think you can't just put everybody in this bracket. And I'll just say what my experiences is, and if that resonates, it resonates, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But my observations have, or let's just say, I suspect that just based on my experience in relationships, women, we both, men and women both need safety, but women tend to get a lot of that safety, or they need a lot of that safety from their partner. They need to feel safe and get that from their partner. Whereas men, they provide that safety to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes it that outdoor dynamic different. And so you've got to be aware of that especially if this person is new to the outdoor world and they don't understand the risks and they haven't experienced certain things before, that the primary thing we all need is to feel safe, and you are providing that safety or not providing that safety. And that goes against a very like primal feeling that we both have if that person doesn't feel safe when they're in the mountains with you.
Dude. Mic drop. Josh Stewart, you are crushing today. Holy shit, man. I totally agree. I'll bring up another example where I didn't do this. Teaching someone how to snowboard. I think the quickest way to get
Don't do it.
to break your relationship up is to try to teach them a snow sport
Uh-huh.
on the hill. Terrible idea.
Yep.
It actually was going fairly well for me for this particular person. Then she wanted to go on the lift.
Mm-hmm.
We did many days on the bunny hill where I would, you know where Mount Hood Ski Bowl is? It's lower on the mountain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would tour around like Tom, Dick, and Harry Mountain, and then I would come down the resort, and then I'd kind of meet her there at the bunny hill, and we'd kind of do some stuff or whatever. But I would get my workout in, type of thing, right? Or I would just go uphill at Ski Bowl. And so then I would occasionally like kind of teach her and then go up, do my thing. It worked out really well. Well, then she wanted to go on the lift, and I said, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure you're going to be ready for this?" "I'm sure." So we buy lift tickets. We go up on a lift, night riding. I take her on a green run. I mean, what else would I do? I took her on a green run.
Mm-hmm.
The green run's the main run there. And she was basically so freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely freaked out. So I'm with her for half the run. It's a pretty long green. And so I'm with her for half the run. And she just goes, "You're fine. Just go down without me." What did I do as a guy? Okay. I'll go down. So I go down. And I linked up with some other buddies, and she's like, "I'm going to take a break," or whatever. Me, I hate paying for lift tickets, dude. So I wanted to get as much as I could out of this freaking lift ticket that I just bought, because I hadn't bought a lift ticket for years. So I'm ripping it up, and then I find her back in the lodge again, and I say, "Hey, how you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I'm okay, but I think I'm gonna be done for the day." I'm like, "You only did one run." "Yeah, I think I'm okay." Well, turns out I think she hit her head or something on the way down. She had a helmet. I made sure she had a helmet on. But I got her to go out one more time. Took her on another green, and I think she hit her head again or something. All this to say that this was a miserable day. This was like New Year's of the day, and she
Okay.
basically had like a migraine for the rest of the night. Couldn't open her eyes on the drive home. It was terrible, dude. And I say this because I didn't do that good of a job of assessing that situation and her skill level,
Mm-hmm.
and probably shouldn't have pestered her to try to get back out and try it again. But on the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, I also kind of want a woman that's like, I want to nail this. I want to keep going. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I got hurt, but I want to keep going. So it's an interesting story of safety because she said, again, many weeks afterwards, I didn't feel safe. And I'm like, as a guy, that is the worst thing to hear, dude. That's the worst thing to hear. So I felt guilty about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, how do you come back for this stuff? You can't. You really can't. It's very tough to come back from something like that if they don't feel safe with you.
Yeah, because it's trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah.
trust has been broken, and that's hard to build. Takes a
Yeah.
long. Once it's been broken, it takes a long time to rebuild it.
Yeah.
Um, that's a familiar story. I've heard that story, played out that story, and I've heard that story. Um, at least different versions of it from many
Really.
different people over the years. That's not uncommon at all.
Really. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would never teach somebody how to ski or snowboard, a partner. I would never do that. That was you hire a ski instructor would be my advice. Just don't do it. Um, I mean, especially like maybe if you are a ski instructor, and it's not because you're good at teaching skiing. It's because if you're a ski instructor, then you've learned a tremendous
Patience.
amount of patience. Yes, yep, exactly. And it isn't about you. Like if you're
No.
and that's probably the primary reason why I would say don't do it yourself is because you're probably expecting that you're going to get a little bit of skiing in, you're going to have a great time,
Exactly.
and you're trying to teach them how to ski, but you need to completely let go of what you're getting out of it. You need to become a guide if you're going to do that. And that is a lot about being a guide is it's not about you at all. It's about them. And if you're gonna do it, then that's the only way to do it is either hire an instructor or make it 100% about them and not about you at all. Um, it's the
Yeah.
only way to do it.
But if you do want to break up, go teach them how to snowboard or ski.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Come
really want to do
organically.
some, yeah, a therapist would call that self sabotage.
Yeah, dude. Oh man. Well, I think again, you had a really good point with climbing. How you said it's pretty relaxing. It's still what would be the word? It's still exciting for both people though. It's still
Yeah.
I'm missing the word of what I want to say, but is there anything else similar in the outdoors that would be like that? Similar to climbing?
Uh, where it's more relaxed and it's not a
I think
sufferfest.
if they already know how to ski or snowboard, going to a resort could be one.
Absolutely, yeah. I think hiking is like that. Snowshoeing is like that. Any sort of cragging style climbing. I mean, even ice climbing could be like that because it's a kind of a cragging environment. But then you're dealing with like cold a lot of the time, and if
Mm-hmm.
this person would have to be a winter sport type person, someone who like is fine being out in the cold for that to be enjoyable. But I mean, there's different all of those sports could provide that opportunity. You just got to do a very recreational level where you're not
Record. Yeah.
like again you're not pushing it. We're not pushing the limit here. If you're someone's learning how to do something, I mean, think back. That's the thing was like when we get really good at these sports, we can only view the world through our own lens, and our lens has all of those experiences to go from, so it's really hard to remember and actually feel what it is like to be a beginner. And so that makes it hard for us to create experiences that are accommodating. Like I was teaching my partner how to rock climb, and the very first thing we did is brought her to Red Rocks, and we didn't start on the bottom and climb our way up. We started at the top, and I just set her up to rappel like immediately. And so her first experience on rock was like leaning back over 100 feet of air underneath
Mhm.
her. She's like
Wow.
freaking out, like what is
Kudos.
this?
Wow. Good for her. Yeah.
Yeah, good for her. She's a champ. But maybe I could have done a little better by easing her into it. But I made it scary right from the get go.
And what do you think's behind that? Do you just want to like show her cool shit right away? You're just almost so excited to get them into your thing that you kind of that's what I've done many times. I get so
Yeah,
excited and I bypass step 1, 2, 3, and 4 and I take them to step 10 right away, you know?
I think that is a big part of it. You're just like, oh, this is gonna be so cool. Check this out. I want to show you
Right.
this. You
Right.
know, I'm gonna take you to southern Utah, and we're gonna go rappel 300 feet into this canyon, and they're just like, what? You know?
Canyoneering would be a good one too, man.
Yeah, canyoneering would be a good one. You just gotta live where there's some good canyoneering to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Ha.
but yeah, I get it. I get it. I've been there.
Dude, I love this. Dude, you had some great quotes throughout this episode.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about that stuff.
Yeah, especially before you have someone else come into your life. If you have ended a relationship or you know what I'm saying? Like if you want someone
Hmm.
else to come into your life, you really have to think about, okay, what are my priorities and does this person fit into my life in that way? And those are things I've had to think about lately. And man, I think if they do, man, it can be a kick-ass relationship though. Because what's better than having a from our end, having a girlfriend that you can also go climb with, you can do stuff in the outdoors
Hmm.
with, go on a road trip with, van life, right? Man, that's pretty rad. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Absolutely, it's a blast.
Especially when you're on the same page with a lot of the stuff too, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to get absolutely on the same page with all that stuff. Which is, but that's okay because like you'll figure out an ebb and flow over time. Like if you can get through the initial growing pains, the initial hurdles, you'll eventually settle into something. Like I've been in situations where we settled into me doing the hard stuff with the guys, um, and and that's worked for me. You don't have to spend every single trip out there together. It'd be wonderful if you could,
Right.
but you don't have to. You figure out an ebb and flow of the relationship and of the
Well,
outdoor experiences.
and one thing I could see where a drawback of that, if you did spend all that time with your partner, is how many times have you known a friend where they had a partner, they did all the stuff with their partner, they break up, and now they don't have any buddies to go climbing with, or now they're hitting you up again. Hey, you want to go do this, blah? And it's like, dude, I haven't heard from you in years. It's like,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? So maybe it is really good to kind of have kind of what I'm hearing you say is like, you know, type two fun. Right now, it's kind of with the guys or the people that really enjoy that type of stuff. The type one fun is a little more with your partner, if that's what they're into right now. I would say that's kind of where I'm at with mine.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly what I would say. Unless you're with somebody who is already of that mindset of the type 2 fun mindset,
mm-hmm.
then you can both grind and it's fine. But I suspect that even if both of you are into type 2 fun, the relationship part component of it, like being in a relationship component of it, is still going to be delicate when you're having that type 2 fun. Like
Mm,
how do you resolve conflict
right.
um, during a type 2 fun experience might be challenging because like we said before, you're in a different mode, you're in a different mindset, and that is different than
The nurturing.
the mind.
God,
Yes.
yes. Boom.
So like
Stewart.
you, I think you'd have to put either the relationship on pause for the type 2 experience. You feel like, all right, we are going to be like climbing partners for this trip first and foremost, and we're going to focus on being good climbing partners or good whatever type 2 fun sufferers. And then the relationship is just like it's kind of, I don't know, I'm saying on pause for lack of a better term. Or you just like, all right, we're going to put the objective on pause and we're just going to be in a relationship until we can resolve this. But
Yeah.
it's just too hard to do both things at the same time.
Yeah. Man, I love this. This is a good podcast, man. Made me think about some things.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to bring up?
I don't know. I think we should talk about, maybe not in this podcast, maybe in a future podcast, we talk about the self or the suffer fest in general. We
Yes,
should just
I
talk
think that
about
would
the
be
suffer
I
fest.
think that would be great. Great podcast episode. Sweet. All right, let's wrap this one up. Where can they find you? You got your YouTube channel out now.
Oh, almost.
Uh,
We're gonna launch it soon. But I'm on Instagram, so
that's right. Mountain Josh?
Mountain Josh.
Mountain Josh. Again, guys, remember, Josh does guided trips, particularly in the PNW, Washington area. So hit him up. Already referred a few people to him. So,
Yeah,
and
appreciate that.
he's been my mentor. So great guy. All right. Catch you for the next one.